Guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first music related video of this channel. As you can tell from the title, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on Noah Kahan's new album, Great Divide. I have been a Noah Kahan fan for a few years now, and I've been lucky enough to see him in concert twice. My favourite song by him is Strawberry Wine. I don't think it's been topped by any of the Great Divide songs, but I haven't fully gotten to know. I feel like they do sit with me and I do understand them now, but sometimes my favourite songs grow over time. Like Strawberry Wine, I thought it was beautiful on first listen, but every time since then that I've listened to it, it's grown on me more to become my favourite Noah song. So I'm not going to be too sure saying that yet, but it's very hard for anything to top that for me. I did actually jokingly made a comment before I saw him last time in concert that I would keep seeing him in concert until he plays Strawberry Wine live, and he ended up playing Strawberry Wine that night and I was bawling. I was a mess. It's just such a beautiful song. I could do a whole deep dive video on just the song Strawberry Wine, because the amount he says without saying much in that song is actually so impressive. But because there are so many songs on this album, I'm only going to be doing a deep dive on the first 10 tracks of this album in this video, and then I'll do a part 2 in maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month. I'm not actually sure, however long it takes me to listen to the songs and gather my thoughts, because I've made notes on the songs, listened through them, tried to get to know them. I'm going to just briefly go through my interpretation because I don't want this video to be too long, but if any of you guys have any questions about my interpretation or want more of an explanation on something I said, please comment below and I'll be happy to talk about it. I'm always happy to talk about Noah, and if you guys specifically want any other albums or any other songs interpreted or deep dived, I can totally do that. I listen to a bunch of artists, but I would say Noah and Taylor Swift are my top two, and I could very easily deep dive any song of theirs because I'm a bit obsessive like that. But I hope you enjoy this video. I know it's a bit different from my F1 and my book videos, so if you know me from there, welcome to a new side of my personality, and if you're new to this channel, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing, I'm trying to grow. But anyway, we start with the end of August, and I just think this is such a beautiful opening track. I think it sets the tone for the album so well. I would say the album itself on first listen can be quite overwhelming and can be quite confusing, just because the amount of perspective shifts that Noah does during this album. The first time you listen to it, you have no idea who's talking. So my first thing when going through these songs was trying to figure out who was talking, whose point of view we're seeing through, and whether that shifts throughout the song, because I feel like that is the most important thing, to know who's talking during a song. Otherwise you're just never going to get the context. The end of August, I think, is Noah talking, because it ties back so much to Stick Season. I think that's why it's such a beautiful opener for this album, because of the amount it ties back to Stick Season. It is a nice natural way to, because Stick Season was a lot about the depression he felt in the winter months in his hometown Vermont. Sorry, I don't live in America. And him wanting to leave and make a name for himself, and the Great Divide is him looking back and realising what has happened now that he has left and now that he has made a name for himself, and I just find it so interesting. So this song is very much about his hometown. It's kind of a love letter to his hometown, but at the same time it kind of brings up the same things we see in Stick Season, as an album talking about how his hometown is very depressing in winter. They say, we never do anything real, we just talk about it. Like, they always just talk about getting out of the town, doing something fun, spending time together, but it's all just talk. They're never doing anything that makes them feel alive. They're never doing anything that helps progress their lives. Everyone in that town is just doing what's expected of them, talking about finding a better life for themselves and never actually taking the steps to make a better life for themselves. And I reckon that's how Noah felt until he had the faith to follow his dreams. There's a lot of reference of bugs and bugs dying, which ties back to stick season and autumn turning into winter. Obviously, end of August is summer turning into autumn. So bugs dying, summer turning into autumn, which obviously will eventually turn into winter. I would say there's a very open feeling to the song. I feel like if you listen to it with your eyes closed, to me it emulates a feeling of driving on a summer's day with all the windows down, blasting music so perfectly. And I honestly don't know how he got it, but like I was just listening to it with my eyes closed and I was like, he just got that sound so perfect, and I honestly don't know how he did it. And I thought a really cute lyric was, I know the traffic light you can speed right by because the camera's down, because it shows that even if he does hate the town, it reminds me of Everywhere Everything, where he says something about I know where you can speed and where you can't, and it shows that he can still see the positives in his hometown, even if he's depressed, even if he states that he hates it, he can still see the positives, and showing people he loves around his hometown helps him to realise how much he actually loves it. And I would also say that lyric could talk about how even after so much time away, he remembers everything about his hometown. He remembers every traffic light, every turn. He remembers it like the back of his hand, and he's always going to come back to it. I would say again, like I talked about earlier, late August angst is the perfect description of the transition to the depression season of August and winter that he describes a lot in stick season. So again, it's very much going back to stick season. And I would say he's talking about the town being stuck in an endless cycle of living the life that is expected of them, and they're just not breaking out of it, because he references how they just grow up and have kids, grow up and have kids. These kids build homes for the rich, like they're never trying to break out of the cycle. The town is just stuck in what's expected of them. And then I love how he ends the song, because he ends it saying, and it's ours now. And it shows that he's grown up and he realizes that he's now part of a generation that gets to shape this town, shape his hometown, how it's perceived, and how people live in it. And I think that's so powerful, and also it's nice to see him realize that. So track number 2 is Doors, and this is personally one of my favorites, but I also feel like it's very much one of the easiest songs on the album to kind of interpret, because he is kind of spelling it out. He's saying anyone who got too close and anyone who wouldn't look, he would hurt anyone, because he wanted people to notice him. So if people just refused to notice him, he would hurt them, because he wants them to notice him and he wants the attention on him. But the second the attention is turned on him and people look and see him and see his vulnerable side, he gets scared and he ends up hurting them anyway for getting too close to him. So, and also he says, I was born into a 100-year storm, and I think that's very much referencing the weather in New England where he grew up and the depression that comes with it, like saying, like, for 100 years this weather has come in winter and everybody's like being depressed. And again, tying into that, he wants to be vulnerable, but the second someone sees that vulnerability, he closes off. He says, I keep showing you doors, but you can't open them up because it gets harder to see me the closer you try to look. Because he believes that he wants someone to fully see him, but when they do, he just shuts down. So then he turns the blame on them by saying, I just live here, babe, but you're the one who decided to knock. So he knows that he's the one who showed her the doors, but the second she tries to get in, he's like, don't blame me that you can't get in. I'm the one who lives here. You're the one who tried to get to know me. You knew that I was damaged from the start. And I think I love these two lyrics. Have you ever stared directly at the sun? He's saying, have you ever tried to hurt yourself? Because you know, you're told from when you're young, don't stare directly at the sun because it will hurt you. And he's doing it on purpose because he doesn't care. Have you ever shared some closeness so exposed to have it spit back by someone? He's saying, have you ever been rejected by someone after fully opening up to them? And have you ever had someone use the things that you told them in confidence against you? Because that's obviously how he feels, what has happened to him in the past, and that's why he's struggling to open up to this person. And his first assumption is that someone will leave. The second that he hears door keys, he thinks someone's leaving because he just doesn't see why they would stick around. And another line I find really interesting is, I'll be gone so long before the anger comes. And I think this means he will leave before his partner starts to hate him, because he believes they'll start to hate him at some point. So he thinks it's better to escape before the partner can start to hate him. And he also said, I'll be only what you know of me till now. And I can see that in two different ways, that lyric. I can see that as in, again, he'll leave before they can get to know him any better. So they'll never get to know him anymore. So the person that they meet originally is the only person they'll ever know when it comes to Noah, because he'll never open up to them any more than that. I can also see it as saying, even when I do open up to you, there's nothing that special there. What you know of me is what I actually am, and you're expecting me to open up and there to be like something else that you can grab onto to prove that I'm a good person. But what you've heard of me till now, that I'm a mean person, that I'm not a good person, is true. And that when I open up, you're not going to get this like magical thing. So I feel like you can take it either way. And then track 3 is American Cars, and I think this is the first song that is finally from the perspective of someone else. I would say this is the perspective of someone that was left behind when Noah got famous and started touring around the world. And I would say it's a sibling just because there's a lot of lyrics that indicate to that, because it talks about Noah driving posh cars now and wearing expensive clothing. And I think that just highlights how out of place he is when he's returning to his hometown, because that's not what anybody in his hometown is like. None of them are famous like him. And I think it just is a way of Noah saying how he also feels out of place when he's coming back to his hometown. He feels like he's already outgrown it. But he feels that responsibility to fix his family issues, and to come home to do that, because he feels like it always falls on him. And I feel like that ties to the lyric that says you always come running back, because they know he's going to come home because he feels that pressure to fix everything. So if you watch the documentary, you know that his dad had an accident, and ever since he needs someone to look after him, he's not fully there in the nicest way. If you haven't watched the documentary, go watch it. And I think that very much ties into but I think he's really lost it. So I think this is a sibling talking to Noah saying, I'm scared about Dad. I think he's actually lost it this time. Like, he needs you to come back and look after him. And I think that's what makes Noah always come back. They also say, I've got to stay for Mum, which to me proves that it's a sibling talking to Noah. But I also find that lyric so interesting, because if you listen to it without the lyrics up, you can also hear in the state Vermont and the Vermont. And in the lyric before that, it says, we're drowning here, I've got to stay for Mum, or we're drowning here in the state Vermont. And I just think it's such a, I don't know if he meant it, but if he did, it's such a clever play of words, because obviously he's discussed depression, family issues before, and his sibling saying, I'm drowning here in the state of Vermont and you've got out, like you've left, you need to come back and help us because you just left and you haven't come back since, and there are still issues here, you can't just leave it all behind. I think that's a very interesting play on words. And then there's also that lyric that says, we would talk so much and it's fine we don't, but can you come home? Which shows that they've drifted apart. They used to be close, but they've drifted apart since Noah became famous and moved out. But the sibling isn't trying to use that to guilt Noah to come home. He actually just needs Noah's help because it's become too much for them, and they know Noah was always the best one at talking, at like bringing the family together, and it's been hard for them since he's gone. Okay, track 4 is Downfall, and I think this is also from a perspective of someone Noah left behind. I'm thinking it's the mum, but I don't have any solid evidence in the lyrics. I don't have any solid evidence in the lyrics to say it's his mum, but that's just the kind of feeling I'm getting. But I think the song starts of driving to drop Noah off at the airport, because it says, I'm leaning towards a subject change in a sentimental moment, and I think that's talking about Noah's trying to say goodbye to her, trying to say goodbye to his mum or his sibling or whoever this song voices. Noah's trying to say goodbye to his mum because he knows that he's going to be going away, that he's going to be touring for a long time, that he's probably going to find it really difficult to come back. He doesn't know when he's going to come back because he's kind of running away a little bit. But his mum doesn't know how to say goodbye, doesn't want to say goodbye, so just chooses to change the subject instead. Because if Noah can't say goodbye, if she doesn't give him a chance to say goodbye, then in her head he isn't actually leaving. Because she doesn't want to address it on the drive, she doesn't want to address it until the latest moment that she can address it. I also think what proves it's them driving to the airport, it says makes you look real Californian, and I think that proves that he looks like he's ready to leave his hometown. He doesn't fit in anymore. He's already got the distinctive look of someone who's about to like go to California or go somewhere else. It says, you could never quite place when I'm angry and I'm joking. So I think that means that Noah can never quite tell. He's trying to express in this song that he can never quite tell when his family members were talking to him about him leaving, whether they were joking and they were happy for him to be leaving and get out there and follow his dreams, or if they were actually angry at him and they were angry that they were being left behind. And I think that's such like a hard thing to know, because I think obviously it's fair for people who are left behind to have a bit of resentment, but also you would hope they would be happy for him. So it's her kind of saying, I can't tell if I'm angry or I'm joking, which means you can't tell because I'm saying it in a weird tone to you and you're taking it as anger because you're always going to assume that I'm angry at you. And it says something about roadkill fawn or something. And Noah says, oh, that's so sad that it's there dying alone. And his mum is like, you state a feeling like a fact. And that kind of gives to me like his mum kind of sees him as cold-hearted for saying it like that, but also it could be her seeing him as cold-hearted for leaving them alone, because Noah's saying, oh, it's so sad that that deer on the side of the road is being left to rot alone, and his mum is kind of thinking, well, you're leaving us here to rot alone, to fall into the depression with the seasons alone, to deal with your dad alone, and you're just stating it with like no actual feeling in your voice. You don't feel like you have regret, you don't feel like you have empathy, and that could cause a bit of resentment. But then after, when the song moves on a bit in the storyline and Noah has gone on tour and he's doing all these things and he's getting more successful, she's saying, I'll be keeping the house the way it was, because she can't move on. She's always hoping that he's going to come back, that he's going to return to his hometown. So she's not going to change anything about the home because she doesn't want to admit that he's moved on. And if she changes anything, that will be a version of the home that he hasn't been there to see. And I think that's too much for her. And she's saying, oh, I won't rub your face in it. Like, there's no shame if it all fails and you want to come home. Like, it's fine. I'll be waiting here for you. And that seems comforting and nice, but it is also like her wishing, which is the whole point of the song, is her wishing on his downfall because she just wants him to come home. Like, I'm sure part of her is happy for his fame, but at the same time she would just prefer him to stay at home. She's saying call me when he's touring to the different places, trying to stay in contact with him, and saying call me when you miss the climb from the hole that has no bottom, which I think is a reference to the seasonal depression that Noah would feel in Vermont. Like, call me when you miss the seasonal depression, call me when you miss like anything about the hometown, call me. Yeah, and she's just saying she's just hoping that something goes wrong that makes Noah want to come home. She just wants him to come home. Now, track 5 on obviously the deluxe version of the album is Lighthouse, and I think the first time I listened to this song, I'd listened to the standard album 4 times in the first day it came out, and then he released 4 more songs. And the first time I listened to this, I was like, this is actually so beautiful. It's so hauntingly beautiful. I have a lot to say about this song. I would say that again, this is in the point of view of his mum, or just someone left behind, but I would wager bet on mum, but who knows. So they're saying they're turning your house into a parking lot. I think they're just talking about the town in general. They're turning it into a tourist attraction because of Noah's fame. We've seen a lot of people go to Vermont now, or go to Maine, or just like all the places Noah mentions in his song, because he's got so big and because he talks about his hometown a lot. People are going to then go visit his hometown to see what his lyrics are talking about, and to see it when it's pretty. And his mum is getting annoyed at that. She's like, you're not even here, but there are people who listen to your songs coming here and making this a tourist attraction. You've ruined our hometown and you're not even here to see it. And again, when she says call the cops, that she's going to call the cops, that's the fans visiting his house, and she's just there, and there's just like fans outside, and she's going to call the cops, which is fair enough. And also she says the corner of town that just you and time forgot, and I see this as he's abandoned it, so he's forgotten about his hometown, or so she thinks, and also time forgot to preserve it in the way it was when he left. So in the last song she was trying to preserve the house in the way that it was when he left, to trick herself into thinking that no time has passed, that he's going to come back, but time has forgot to do that, and now it's setting up tourist attractions and all these things that prove his fame, and that he's not there because he's out making a big name for himself, and that's painful to her. And I also love this lyric of feeding the flightless birds on the pier, because I think she's trying to find the connections with the birds that she knows they can't leave Vermont because they can't fly. So she's feeding the birds she knows can't leave her. She's only forming a connection with the people and the birds that she knows can't leave, because she can't go through getting close to someone and then leaving again, like Noah did. And also Wreckage of You, I feel like a lot of people have said this, such a beautiful lyric tie back to Halloween. I don't know if there's any context tie back to Halloween, which is the song on Stick Season, but it's such a beautiful lyric tie back to Halloween. As long as there's light, obviously the light of a lighthouse guides sailors home. So I would say, as long as there's a chance that you're going to come home, that there's something that's guiding you home, I'm always going to look out for you. Like, as long as I think there's a chance you'll return home, I'm always going to be there waiting, looking for you. And I think then it talks more about his backstory, how Noah always felt out of place, because it says he's a face made for a missing sign. So I feel like with astrology, you look up your birthday, you look at your sign, and you talk about like all these things that the stars say about you, and you kind of find your way, and it explains who you are and why you do what you do. And I feel like a lot of people cling to that because they're just like, well, of course that's how I act, like I'm a Gemini, blah blah blah. But he felt like he had never been understood by any of those things, astrology or literally anything else. He has never felt understood by anything in this world. um, and the local guys talk about how he was always a leaving type. So the people in Vermont are talking about Noah and talking about his fame and how they always thought he was gonna just abandon this place, and they're not surprised. They're talking shit about him because he's famous, but they never had the courage to do it, and I think that's quite ironic. Um, she's saying, I comb the lighthouse. And the lighthouse is there to obviously guide him home, but I think it also symbolises how he's in isolation and he's far away from the shore of his hometown. Like, he's nowhere close to his hometown anymore. The lighthouse isn't close to his hometown. Like, it's in the distance. Like, she can see him, but she can't get to him. And I think that also symbolises how she can see his actions through social media, but she hasn't seen him in a while. Like, she can watch his life through social media, she can see this lighthouse, but she can't get to it. She can't personally guide him home. And she's saying how she hopes that she'll find him there one day, that he'll return to the hometown and that he'll burn his boat, which means she hopes he won't leave again. She hopes he won't feel that urge to leave again. And then there's these really beautiful vocalizations at the end, and I like to say that this song and the vocalizations at the end are like the humming or the whistling at the end of Strawberry Wine, which is obviously my favourite Noah song. And I feel like the humming says so much at the end of Strawberry Wine, and the vocalizations say so much at the end of this song, because I would say that it sounds a lot like the mythical sirens. So if you don't know Greek mythology or just any mythology, I'm not sure what mythology they like kind of come under, but sirens kind of mythical sea creatures who use their like beautiful voices to lure you into the sea, to drown you, then eat you. But I would say that if you're taking it as in his vocalization sounds like sirens, I would say it's him, it's symbolizing that the sea is calling him. Like, he's always, whenever he is home, he's always being called to go back out to sea, to go back on tour, to go back away from his hometown. Like, he's always going to feel that tug and that pull back to fame, back to touring, and he's never going to settle back in his hometown like his mum wants. But I would also say the vocalizations definitely echo at the end of the song, and I would say that represents an empty space between Noah and his hometown, the lighthouse and the hometown. Like, if you think about it, if you're standing on shore and you can see a lighthouse and you shout out, your voice is probably just going to echo back at you. It's probably not even going to reach the lighthouse. And I feel like that's how Noah feels, and his mum feels, that there's so much like empty space between them because they're states away, and that if they, because he's not close enough for them to properly communicate, there's just empty space and their communication is just echoing between them. Okay, and the next track is track 6, which is Paid Time Off. And I think on first listen and even second listen and even third listen, this was the song that I just didn't quite grasp what he was trying to say. So on my first listen, I thought it was kind of like a love song or like a friendship song. But there was one lyric that stuck out to me that I'll talk about a little bit later on, where I was like, I'm actually have no idea what this song is trying to say. But when I sat down to do the deep dive, to write my notes on it, I had more to say than basically any other song. So I think that's what I love about Noah. Sometimes you have to sit down and really read his lyrics before a song resonates with you, and I like slow burn songs, I really do. So I believe this one is back in Noah's POV, and it's talking about a sibling relationship. It could be a friendship, but I think it's a sibling relationship because of some of the lyrics that he says. Um, I think this whole, like, the premise of the whole song is Noah has tried to communicate with this sibling that he has dreams and that he wants to get out of this town and follow his dreams, and he just doesn't want to settle for a job in his hometown. But it also mentions the the warfare with a voice in my head, which I think is him struggling to choose between following his dreams and staying within the hometown, because he knows he'd be letting people down by leaving. He knows that he's expected to just settle down and get a normal job, and that no one actually really believes he'll be able to make it big if he does leave the hometown. So this is the song, this is the lyric that made me think, hold on, this doesn't actually sound like a cute friendship song anymore. And it's, your love is like an open flame, I'm a running car, you're a closed garage. Because obviously if you have a running car in a closed garage for too long, the flames are going to build up, it's going to suffocate you, it's going to be toxic for you. So he is basically saying that they're toxic for each other. And I was like, that's really weird, because the song sounds really nice on the surface. But I also think you can definitely take the metaphor, I'm a running car. Noah is saying that he's a running car, which links to him saying, I want to get out of this town, I want to drive away, but you're a closed garage, you're stopping me from following my dreams, from leaving this town, like, you're stopping me. And then it does say how people do grow up and they move away from this town because people get depressed in this town, people want more for themselves than what's in Vermont. But then he says, but you don't care and I don't mind at all. And I think that means the sibling actually just doesn't care about moving. He's never thought about leaving the hometown. He's happy to get a normal job in the hometown. And Noah's saying, well, if you don't care, I don't mind. Like, if you're going to stay, I'll stay. But I think that's more him trying to convince himself than him actually saying he doesn't mind not leaving, because obviously he does want to leave. And I would say they spend most of their time together in this relationship, in this sibling relationship, just messing around. But Noah had the brains for a city job, so he had the desire to leave, he had the desire to do something good, but you had a taste for a county cop. Sibling has no desire to leave. He's happy staying where he is, getting a silly job, staying in the hometown, being important to the hometown. And then it says make a living working for the paid time off. So the sibling's happy settling for a job in the hometown that he doesn't particularly love, he doesn't particularly hate, and it pays for him to do fun things in the time off. And Noah wants more than that. Noah wants a job that he loves, he wants his fame, he wants his career, he wants his music. But he's settling for the paid time off with his sibling because he doesn't know if he can leave his sibling. And then there's humming in between, like, the lyrics of some of the lyrics, and I think it sounds carefree, but it could also be drowning out the fire in his head to follow his dreams. Because you know when sometimes someone's saying something and you kind of hum to, like, ignore them or just, like, tell them that you're not listening. So, but he's blocking out the desire to leave by humming and making it sound really carefree, like he doesn't really care and he's happy to stay here, but really he's not. So I think once that all finally clicked with me, I love this song now. I loved it before because it's such a fun vibe, but I was so confused what the message of that song was, and I'm so happy I finally figured out. But anyway, now we've got track 7, Staying Still, which was on the deluxe version. People were very happy that we were getting this. I was one of them. I believe this is from Noah's wife's point of view, which I think it's the first song we've got from her. I think it's the first and only song we get from her point of view. There might be another song further down the track list, but I think this is the first song we get from his point of view, so I found that very exciting. And it says, it wouldn't hurt like watching you go smaller on the back road. I think it says you could punch me in the gut, but it wouldn't hurt like. And I think I can't tell what the back road is indicating, whether that's saying Noah grows smaller when they're travelling back to his hometown because he knows he's going to have to face his family issues and the trauma, or he grows smaller when he's going back on tour because he knows he's going to have to leave her and this life that he's chosen and, like, his family and blah blah blah. I'm going to say he's growing smaller when he's going back on tour, because it then says I hope that Logan crumbles. And I looked that up, and Logan is their local airport. So she's saying, I hope the airport like crumbles so he can never leave, so he has to stay here, which I think is very interesting. And there's just like a lot of lyrics that shows that she's being left behind, like sleeping in a bed half empty. He's supposed to be on the other side, but she's staying at home while he's touring the world, so she's being left behind. And then she's asking him, are you good at staying still? Like, would you be able to, if I asked you, would you be able to stay in one place and not go on a tour for like a couple of years or like for the rest of your life? Would you be able to actually settle down and stay in one place with me, or will you always leave? Like, will I wake up one morning and you just won't be there because you got the urge to leave again? Which I think is such a heartbreaking lyric. And she's saying, I'm trying to find the one line that would change your mind, like the words that she could say to get him to stay, and also showing you plane crashes online, like trying to scare him into staying, like trying to get him to not leave. But then it says, but the Charles meets the sun. And the Charles is a river, so it's talking about the sunset and how the day has passed without her finding these words to get him to stay. So she's trying to find the words. She was staying at 3 p.m, she was trying to find the words, but the sun sets and she still hasn't found the words, so he's going to leave. And I think that then follows into the next day where it says the Harvard track team runs. So everything else keeps moving around her, including Noah. Everything else keeps moving, life keeps flowing, but she's stuck when Noah's left her. Again, stuck on Storo. So she feels behind and she feels stuck. And Storoing is a term used in Vermont when a truck gets stuck under a bridge that was too low, despite there being like warning signs that the truck isn't going to be able to get under this bridge. So I feel like she's saying she feels stuck in the life and being left behind, even though there were so many warning signs that this is going to happen. There's always a warning sign that he's going to go on tour again, that he's going to leave again, or this is the life she was signing up for when she like married him. And yet she still feels stuck, even though she knew this was going to happen. And then the little bridge, where it says put in ceremony, obviously that's talking about them marrying. And it's like, what was there before me? So she's trying to understand like his upbringing, his dreams, and his desire to leave, like all the things that make, like all the other components of this relationship. And she's trying to understand that, so she's not being too overwhelming. She's trying to understand him, but she still feels hurt that she's left behind. And then she ends it by saying like, oh, I'll be good, I'll be fine, I can laugh about it. Like she's trying to convince herself and him that she'll be fine, because she doesn't want him to not leave for her. Like she doesn't want him to give up his dreams, because she wants him to stay still for once. So she's trying to convince herself that she's fine with him touring, and she's telling him that she's fine even though she's not. Then track 8, which is obviously the first track we got from this album, and I absolutely fell in love with this track the first time I heard it. It's actually one of the best songs I've ever heard, and that is obviously The Great Divide. And I would say this is another one from Noah's point of view. Yes, I would say that. So I think he's talking about a childhood friend, and that they haven't talked about anything serious for a long time, or really anything at all. Or maybe it's also saying like, I can't remember the last time that we talked about anything else but looking out for cops. That could also be saying that they never talked about anything serious when they were friends in their childhood. Like they never talked about what was actually worrying them, which is a very ongoing theme throughout this song. So I think talking about scars on the same sides of their hands, I think that's saying they share a similar like upbringing, share similar trauma, maybe the same kind of family issues, or just like the seasonal depression of Vermont. Like obviously we don't know what that is, but they share something similar, and they did in their childhood. And I think the song is trying to say that the friend fell into suicidal thoughts, and Noah tried to talk to him about it, but obviously when you're having those thoughts, you don't want to talk to anyone about it. And when you're having like a good time with a friend, that's the last thing you want to be reminded of. So his friend just like shuts him down because he doesn't want to think about it right now. And Noah doesn't really know the right way to bring it up or to help his friend. But now that he's older, he can look back on it and see the situation for what it was, and he just wishes the best for this person. He just hopes that this person has gotten everything they wanted out of life, that they're living a normal life, that they finally like got over all of their issues. I would also say that there's a lot of like religious wording in this song. I think this person, this friend, has turned religion to help, and Noah hopes that the friend only spends time worrying about normal things that normal people worry about, instead of worrying whether he's going to go to heaven or hell because of like his sins when he was younger or stuff like that. He doesn't want his friend thinking of existential things all the time just because he's religious. Like, yeah. And then it says, you inch yourself across the great divide. So I think when they were younger, his friend one time attempted to open up by playing songs that he relates to, but Noah didn't have an open ear to the lyrics. So, and I think that represents how he didn't fully attempt to read or understand the friend. Like his friend was talking to him, showing him songs, being like, this is how I feel, like I really relate to these lyrics, this singer really hears me. And Noah was literally just hearing like the tune of the song. He wasn't actually trying to hear the lyrics and understand how his friend was feeling in that moment. And now he can understand how wrong that was of him, how he could have helped so much more. When he's saying they only shoot the birds who cannot sing. So if a person is struggling or doesn't meet societal expectations, they'll just be shot down straight away. And I think this is very interesting. He says rage in small ways. So I think that's trying to say that the Great Divide, it wasn't created by like one blowout fight. I think it was created like an accumulation of misunderstanding and unspoken resentment of a friend not feeling listened to, and Noah feeling like not like him and his friend weren't on the same page, and there was just a bunch of misunderstanding, miscommunication, resentment, and that just over time created this great divide that they now can't get over. And it says you'd fade to some places, so that could either be his friend fading into depression and no one not knowing how to help him out of that, or losing his identity due to religion, and again no one not knowing how to help with that. And he says, I hope you threw a brick into that stained glass. It's like, I hope you let go of God's power over you and shattered the illusion to having to live a life in a picture perfect way. Because sometimes when you are faced with like religious trauma, it is very much like I have to live my life like this, like I have to get rid of all the sins when I was younger because otherwise I'll go to hell and stuff like that. I hope you're with someone who isn't scared to ask. He hopes his friend is with someone who won't just like ignore the trauma like Noah did, and will actually talk through it with this person and help this person if it ever gets bad again. And I hope you're not losing sleep about what comes next. So like heaven or hell, if he goes to heaven or hell, what happens after death? I hope he's not like losing sleep over that. I hope he's again just worrying about normal things. Okay, now on to track 9, which is Haircut. And I think this is also from a sibling's point of view, but I think the song actually does start just literally the first verse in Noah's point of view when it says, try to break your fall. So it's talking about how Noah's still around, Noah still cares about this person, this sibling, and he's still trying to help. But the sibling is holding resentment over Noah's fame, and also the sibling being left behind. He's holding a lot of resentment and he's not caring that Noah's trying to help him. Noah's also saying some small fame ain't made me someone else. Like he's trying to show the sibling, look, I haven't changed. Like I know I have fans now. I go on tours now. I make music now, but that hasn't made me someone else. I'm still going to be here for you. I'm still going to be here for the family, even if I'm not always physically here. Then I think it changes to the sibling's point of view, and it says, you ain't a goddamn hero now because you cry on live TV. The sibling is saying, like, he doesn't think it's impressive how Noah is releasing all of these, like, vulnerable songs and, like, connecting with people. He doesn't think it makes Noah a hero to be, like, talking about mental health. He like doesn't think it's as impressive as other people were maybe saying it is. He probably thinks it would be more impressive if Noah stayed at home and helped with the family. And then the siblings saying like, but at least I've got a soul. Like even if he's not as successful as Noah, even if he is still in his hometown, still like living with his dad, like eating takeaway, all of these things which could be viewed as him being not as successful as Noah, he's saying, well, at least I didn't like sold my soul to have fame. Like, it's still, at least I'm still like true to myself, true to my family. And he's trying to one up Noah because he feels like Noah's one upped him. And then he's saying, well, I'm happy for your haircut. Like, he's happy that Noah has found change, become happy now that he's left the hometown, but he is still holding resentment, and he's saying, help me if it helps you sleep, like, because he thinks Noah is only coming back and helping him out of this rough patch because Noah feels guilt for leaving him in the first place. He doesn't believe that Noah's doing it because he cares. He believes Noah feels guilt and needs to help to get through that guilt for himself, not for his sibling. And it's saying, we don't need your cosign now. It's saying, like, the town doesn't need Noah to bring tourists to it. Like, Vermont doesn't need any help. They're doing just fine by themselves. They've always done just fine by themselves, and they don't need Noah bringing fame to Vermont, tourists to Vermont. That's not what their town needs, but that's what Noah's doing. And then again, it says, help me if it helps you write. The sibling only believes that Noah comes back and helps him for song material because he knows that, like, a tricky situation, like, complicated feelings are what Noah always writes about. So he always thinks, well, when you come back to this place, which gives you great songs, obviously you're only coming back for another #1 hit, and then you're going to go and tour with that album that you made out of our pain. And then I love this lyric. This is my favourite lyric of this song. You walked into a haunted house and got angry at the ghosts. No one knows what state of mind he's probably going to fall into when he comes back to Vermont. He knows he's going to probably fall into that seasonal depression or fall into that depression of the complicated family dynamics that he clearly has. And yet he still gets angry when he goes home and he starts feeling sad, starts feeling like complicated feelings. Like, he gets angry, but those feelings are still there, and that even though he's gone away and improved himself and become so much happier by moving out of his hometown, he can still come back to his hometown and all of those feelings will come back. Like, just because he's improved himself doesn't mean he's now immune to all of those things he used to feel, and like that depression. But it's also saying, save it for the microphone. Like, save your fake pity for us. Like, you come home and you pretend to have pity for us, you pretend to feel bad for us, but save that for the songs that you write. Save it for the hundreds of people you sing to on tour. Like, don't come here and give us this fake sentimental bullshit when his sibling doesn't actually believe that he cares. So there's a lot of resentment in that song, basically. Track 10 is one of the most beautiful songs, and is also the last song I'm going to be deep diving in this video until part 2. So track 10 is Willing and Able, and this is such a beautiful song. It's also, I believe, in Noah's POV at the start, and it's talking about his sibling again. A lot of sibling dynamics on this album, which I find really interesting, because I don't think we've ever really touched on sibling dynamics in Stick Season. We had a couple of lyrics about his mum and a couple of lyrics about his dad, but we didn't really touch on siblings, so it's very interesting that that's the main focus of this album. But he said, this is Noah talking. When I make my flight, I'm the devil, but when I stay the night, then we drink and fight about the childhood lie. He's saying, like, when I leave and when I get out of this hometown, I'm in the wrong because you think I'm running away from this. But if I stay, we just have the same fight over and over, and we're never actually getting anywhere, so what's the point of me staying? But he's also saying, well, I am willing and able if you want to kick this rock around. Like, he doesn't see any point in him staying because he knows they're just going to have the same fight over and over, but he's still willing and he still will stay when his sibling asks to have that fight over and over, even if they're getting nowhere, just because he hopes that one day they will eventually get somewhere. I think that's heartbreaking. And then I think after the chorus it changes to his sibling's POV, who holds a lot of resentment about Noah leaving. And he says, all I see is your shadow. He sees the ugly side to Noah. Like, the public see like this golden side to Noah, him speaking out about mental health, him touring, his rise to fame. And the siblings saying, I don't see any of that. I see the ugly sides of you. Like, I see you when you come home and you're at your worst and all we do is fight. And I just see that part of you, and I don't know what the media is talking about. I've never met that version of you. Like, I've never seen you like that. It says, I'll see you in six months when you need your next song. He feels like Noah again only comes back when he needs song material, when he needs something complicated to write about. He doesn't actually feel like Noah is having these conversations with him to help the relationship. He thinks he's just having these conversations to bring out complicated feelings, because complicated feelings make the best songs. So there's a lot of disbelief and resentment in that lyric. But then he's also saying the siblings also willing to have the same fight over and over, hoping that something will change. So they're both willing to have the same fight, knowing that nothing's going to change, but hoping that something will change. And yet they still can't find their way to having a normal relationship. But then it says, well, I wish you could know me. Like, they both wish they could have this normal relationship, and then not having the same fight over and over, and that they could just spend time together like normal siblings, sit in silence and not feel resentment for each other. Say I love you and mean it this time. They wish they could know each other and like each other and love each other as people. Because obviously with siblings, it's like you're required to love them. Like with family, it's kind of like, well, you have to love me because you're my family kind of thing. But it's so different when you actually love a sibling because of who they are, and like getting to know them and loving them. So they're saying they want that. They want to like tell Noah, oh, I love you, and mean it. Like they actually do love him as a person, not just they're required to love him, they're required to say that because they're siblings. And then it ends with the beautiful lyric of, if you're willing, I'm able. Like, if you are willing to do all of this hard work, have all the fights, have all the hard conversations that we need to have to get over this resentment, to get over this childhood, just like everything that's complicated in the relationship. It's going to need so many like talks, so much work, so much like one step forward, three steps back. If you're willing to do that, then I'm able, I'm here, I'm waiting. Like, I'm always here waiting for you to come back and fix this relationship. So it's such a beautiful song. But yes, those are the first 10 tracks of Noah Kahan's new album, and those are my interpretation of those songs. If you guys have any different interpretations or think I missed anything, please comment down below. And if you guys do want to see a part 2 of the other tracks, please also comment down below, just so I know if anybody's looking out for it, because then maybe I'll get it done quicker. But I'm very excited to start talking about music on this channel as well. I know YouTube is always like, oh, niche down, but I think it's such a great thing when you can create a channel and talk about everything you love in one place. And obviously, like, if you follow me for Formula One, you don't have to watch my like book and music videos, and like vice versa and everything. But I think it's just really cool that I have a space where I can post about all of my interests and hopefully find people who also interpret Noah Kahan lyrics or also make predictions ahead of an F1 race. Like, I think that's really cool. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to consider subscribing, that would be great. But thank you for getting to the end as well. I know it's been quite a long video, but thank you. I will see you around.